Embracing the football scene on the Rock of Gibraltar with Adam Roberts and Steve Brown.
Well, welcome to the Gibraltar Footie Show. Another week, week 3, I believe, of the Gibraltar Footie Show. And hopefully, in the studio in Gibraltar is Adam Roberts. Good evening.
Here I am, new and improved.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm just...
You're coming across in stereo.
I know, I thankfully got myself a new headset, and now hopefully the people at home can hear me a lot better than having to listen to me through the iPhone.
Yeah, got to say a big thanks to our friends at RPDTL, a worldwide company who work in stereo sound, and hopefully we're coming across loud and clear. Well, this week, I tell you what, we always kick off by saying what we've got planned for this week. We've got some excellent interviews that you've been part of, and the thing is, I want to start off with something. This is a podcast, so we're not GBC. We don't do things how they're supposed to be. But you always seem... I'm not having a go at you, Adam, but you always seem to have interviews in nightclubs. Because...
Oh, you don't even know how difficult it is.
It's always loud. When it comes to the editing.
It's just so difficult to try and find somewhere. I think with Graham Teresa, I had to do it in my car.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Anthony Barden, we were in timeout. And the last two with Bosio and Terrence, we've had to do it in a corner in Atlantic Suite. So trying to find a quiet place is proving
it's
very
impossible.
difficult. Literally.
But the thing is, everywhere's busy on the rock, isn't it? So it's very difficult to... find a quiet location, but we've got some excellent interviews this week. I'll let you announce them because you managed to sort them out and get them sorted. Who are we chatting to this week?
Yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting up with Gibraltar United and Gibraltar midfielder Jamie Bosio. He's one of my good friends that I've met through football, and it's been a real pleasure working with him over the last few seasons.
Because I didn't realise that you actually do a bit of work, don't you, with Gib United as well?
Yeah, over the last few months, Paul Cordado, the president of Gib United, he approached me. He knew I was working with Football Gibraltar. He liked how I was working and offered me a social media role. Obviously, they'd just been bought by Michel Sagado, so obviously the chance to work with him, I was never really going to say no.
You've been working with Gib United, which is fantastic to be working with them guys. And we've also got another fantastic interview this evening with Terrence, I believe.
Yeah, Terrence Jolley is the former Gibraltar under-19 head coach. I've worked with him many a time. I think this is now like the 4th or 5th interview I've done with him, and it's a pleasure speaking to him. He's a very knowledgeable guy. I'm very grateful with the help he's given me over the last few seasons, and I see him as a really good friend.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of good interviews this week. But it's been great, hasn't it, since we've started this, 3 weeks now. We're getting some really good feedback from the people who are getting in touch with us on Twitter and Facebook and everything else.
Yeah, it's fantastic. When I go to watch the games, everyone starts chatting to me about it. I was having a coffee this morning and a guy stopped me and was giving me a few tips. So we're going good.
Go on then, give us them tips. What tips were he giving you?
Oh, he was just telling me about how doing my interviews that I have to be a lot happier, but it's quite nerve-wracking, I can tell you that.
Is he calling you miserable?
Yeah, literally. Maybe not in those words, but he did tell me that. He's
putting a rocket up your arse and saying, "Come on, give it some energy."
Yeah, I'll have to check more. If we ever find a place that's quite quiet, I'll try and brighten up in my next one.
But anyway, it's been a bright, talking of brightness, it's definitely been a bright week on the rock football-wise. Just looking back at the action from the week past, it's been a pretty good week. And we'll start off with the second division, if you would. Starting way back on Thursday with the Magpies. A good 3-1 win for them against Leo FC, and back to winning ways for Davy Wilson.
Yeah, they picked up a good result. I know I was speaking to a few players after the game, and they weren't too happy with the performance. They said, but hey, a win's a win at the end of the day, and Wilson will be quite relieved that he's got a win on the board.
I think he will, because I was looking at a lot of things on social media regarding Magpies, because they're quite out there, aren't they, when it comes to social media of the Magpies, and I think they've put a lot of pressure on themselves, or somebody has, because they're expecting good things this campaign.
Yeah, of course. They're expecting good things every season. Every team that's competing wants to better themselves, and they're doing just that. They've got a good. Their social media for me is probably up there as one of the best, and they're only second divisions. So hopefully, if they ever get up to Premier, and their social media got even bigger, it's a great thing for the club.
Yeah, well, they've managed to get 4 points on the board at the moment. Then, of course, Europa Point had that good win against Cannons on Sunday.
Yeah, Cannons suffered their first defeat of the season. Europa Point scored 3 goals in about less than 20 minutes to lead 3-0 at half-time, and really, against a team like Europa Point, trying to get anything from that game is very difficult.
Yeah, so it sounds like the game was, come 45 minutes, the game was done and dusted.
Yeah, surprisingly enough, I wouldn't have expected Cannons to be trading 3-0 at half-time after how they've been this season, but obviously something went wrong on the day, and now they're sitting second.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at the league table, and it's looking pretty good. It's when I know we're only like 3 or 4 games in, but there's probably 4 or 5 sides in that second division who fancy themselves this campaign.
Yeah, this is by far one of the most competitive divisions I've seen since I've been covering football on the Rock. Every team knows their strengths and weaknesses, and you never know what to believe. You never know what's going to happen each game. Like, I don't think anyone would have expected Europa Point to beat Cannons. Angels have been a real dark horse. They were very quiet, and now all of a sudden they don't look like they're going to lose a game. They played really well.
Yeah, and then of course the Angels did get that 1-0 win. Only a 1-0 win, but it's 3 points on the board against Olympic Gibraltar.
Yeah, they were surprising. It was only 1-0. They were a very well organised team compared to Olympic. They had a few players that day, like Bruveng. He used to play for Monscalpe, and he was just ridiculous. He's one of these proper Spanish midfielders. Like you almost think it's like a David Silva, where the ball was just stuck to his foot, and he could pick a pass, and it's a joy to watch him.
So every time he gets the ball, pardon my French, you're shitting yourself.
Yeah, literally. I think he was running past. Wouldn't even say running. He was dancing past defenders, and Olympic just couldn't get close to him.
And then, of course, tonight we've just been chatting about it, but it looks like Boca have just picked up a 1-0 win against FC Hound Dogs.
Yeah, back to winning ways after their defeat to Cannons last week. I know they won't be too happy about the injury to their top scorer Valdiva, but I know they've got some good players on the bench, and hopefully they can push on and start giving a test to Angels and other teams.
And they seem to be one of these sides. We were talking about it before we came on air for the podcast. They're one of their sides who are trying new things with social media. I know they've got a website up and running, but they're trying to do some live coverage as well.
Yeah, they've been doing some of these Facebook Live things, which is obviously it's for the banter. They have quite a good audience,
fan base.
Yeah, fan base is the word. They've got a good fan base going on, and it's good banter as well. I'm at the game, so I listen to them a few times, and I'm chuckling at a few things they say.
And looking at the first division, we were on air last Wednesday evening. Monscalpe beating Lynx by 3-0 in that game. It's not looking good for Mr. Alan Buller, is it?
No, he's really struggling with the Premier Division right now.
What do you put it down to? What do you put it down to?
No one. I don't think anyone would know. Really. I think he's the only one when he goes home after the game knows what's happened,
but he can't even buy a goal.
I know, and you look at their strike, and he's about 6'5", 6'6", maybe, and you would have thought they'd be bombing balls into the box.
Well, the idea, if you've got
that.
I don't know who they've got playing in their side, but if you've got a Peter Crouch or Andy Carroll playing in your team, then the only way to deliver the ball into the box is by whipping the ball in from your wing backs or your 2 wide men.
Yeah, of course you would have expected that, but when I haven't seen them in the last few games, but when I saw them against Gibraltar United, for the first half they were trying it for a bit, but then after that they just went very narrow, and if you've got such a tall guy in the box, playing narrow is the last thing he wants as a striker.
No, he wants it over the top so he can get some aerial presence, not into his feet, does he?
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully Lynx can put a few things straight next game. But looking at Lincoln, I think that's going to be another loss as well.
Yeah, it's going to be hard work. But looking to the last Thursday night, Glasses won, Gibraltar Phoenix won, and what I think is another good result for Glasses.
Yeah, they played for the first 45 minutes. I thought they were the better team. They were leading. It was a very good goal they scored, and after that, they just looked like cruising. But Phoenix came out in the second half, and they were the much better team, and they were probably very lucky to. So Glassies were probably very lucky to be walking away with just 1 point.
Yeah, looking at Phoenix, they've played 3, got 4 points on the board, mid-table side. How do you see them setting up for the rest of the season?
They have a very good team. They've got some good players from the 2nd division and 3rd division of Spain. I think they were given a shock against Lincoln. Maybe the new players were taking this league a bit as of a joke. Yeah. But I think when you look at teams like Lincoln, you look at teams like Europa, they could easily walk into the 2nd division in Spain and give it a right go.
The thing is, if you start kind of undervaluing teams like Lincoln, you're going to get your arse kicked, aren't you?
And exactly that. When you're losing 5-0, I think that was a shock
it's a bit
to
of a wake-up
many
call.
People. Exactly, to the people on the pitch and the board. Yeah.
And then looking at Gibraltar United, a great win against St Joseph's, like what they would probably see St Joseph's being a top 4, top 5 club, and a good scalp to take.
Yeah, it was a very good performance from Gibraltar United. I thought St Joseph's didn't play too bad, but 3 mistakes and it was 3 goals.
Yeah, and a good position at the moment. You're currently sitting in 2nd place, just behind Lincoln. I've got to apologise as well, Anna, because
yeah, it's true.
I was giving them some ribbing up, saying that they were celebrating too much, but they came back pretty quick saying, "Shut your mouth! You don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah, I'm sure some of the players will be listening to this and will be having a laugh to themselves.
But it's all good. It's all good banter, and it's fantastic because you spend a bit of your time around that club, around Gibraltar United. What is the atmosphere like within that group of players?
Oh, everyone knows they need to be at their best. They're playing. A lot of the locals now there are playing with players who are a much better standard. I speak to some of the board members at training, and there's an intensity there that hasn't been there for a good few seasons now.
Well, what can I say? IMPS3, Europa 1, that'll be a scalp and probably a psychological kind of victory as well.
Yeah, I call it the El Clasico, as the 2 of the biggest teams in Gibraltar right now, and it was a quite. I think Lincoln. You would have said Lincoln deserved it. I had a little rant on Twitter on how Lincoln just were up for the game and Europa won. You're looking at Anthony Hernandez. I think he's about 20, 21 years old, and I think he would have been the perfect replacement for Liam Walker. But instead, Europa thought they would bring in someone who's twice his age, experienced. But if you're looking at the future, you've got you've got a superstar in Andy, but with the players they brought in, you could say they've got 1-2 more seasons in them before they want to do something else. So personally, I think it was very bad transfer business from Europa. Very
quickly, looking at Lions versus Manchester 62, a 2-2 draw. That was Saturday evening, and another good result for Lions, who are currently sitting in 3rd place.
Yeah, I think they were very lucky to get the result. They scored I think one of my guys said they scored in the 96th or 97th minute, and the 4th official only put about 4 or 5 minutes up on the board. So Manchester were obviously very, very furious with the result. But hey, it was a good performance from both sides, I believe, and hopefully Manchester can pick up on this point, on another good performance and push on.
But looking at Lincoln, played 3, won 3. excellent start for them as far as they're concerned.
Yeah, they've been a very good team so far. I think losing the league has been a real kick up the arse for a lot of their players who maybe took their foot off the gas last season, and now they brought in some good players and now look a team that I think already are gonna run away with the league.
Yeah, and then just looking at Gibraltar United, they brought a few new faces in. We're chatting to Chino just a few weeks back, getting ready for the new season. I think they played one game at that time. Now played 3, currently on 7 points, and they're looking pretty good, and they're looking like the real deal, aren't they?
Yeah, they brought in some really good players over the summer. They brought in Manuel Roman. He used to play in Cadiz. He was the one. He scored a brace against St. Joseph's last weekend. And they've just got other players. They've got a few from Portugal who's they're doing quite well. They brought over an Egyptian or a Moroccan, I can't remember which one. And he scored I think 2 goals in 3 games. He was one of these players that won a competition that Michel Salgado did in Dubai, and he won it. And then Michel sent him down here on a contract to see how he gets on over here.
Excellent. But you did manage to catch up with Jamie Bosio during the course of the week. You managed to catch up with the Gibraltar United player and international player. And what was it like chatting to Jamie?
Yeah, it's great. He's a great person to speak to. He puts himself out as a very passionate footballer, and we were just speaking about everything from his time at Gibraltar United to how his games got better over the World Cup qualifiers, and what he hopes to get out of the Nations League, which is coming up.
Yeah, no, it's a great result for us against a team that caused us quite a lot of problems last season, so it's a massive, massive step up for us. So yeah, we're all quite content with how it went on Friday night.
This is your second season now at Gibraltar United. How have you found it?
Different to last year. The change of philosophy, I suppose, has helped us move forward, even though we've kind of received quite a few negative comments, but I think it was something that needed to happen within the club and something that needed to happen in order for the club to go in the direction that we're going now. And there have been a lot of new players that have come in of good quality, and like I've said before, I'm not against playing with players as long as they're going to improve my level and my standard, then I'm all for it.
How have you found it with your new teammates?
At the beginning, difficult because lots of different nationalities, languages, kind of communication-wise, it's complicated. But I think since we started pre-season quite early and we've all got used to each other and everything else, we're starting to gel much better now than we did during pre-season, and I think it's helped us the first three games.
Yeah, like you said, the first 3 games you're currently unbeaten at the moment. What goal have you set yourself for this season?
Personally or as a team?
Both.
As a team, I don't know, just to kind of do better than last season, I suppose, as an initial goal, right? We don't want to be down at the bottom of the league, struggling like we were last year to pick up points. I think we want to be, I wouldn't say challenging for the league, but if we were to finish in the mid-table looking up and not over our shoulder, I think that's progress. I suppose it's a successful season. We've got 7 points from our first 3 games, and I think the aim for us is to take each game as it comes, really, not to kind of get too carried away with results and focus on each game individually and see where we go from there after each game.
You're moving on to the internationals. The World Cup qualifiers finished a few weeks ago. How did you find that whole campaign?
Amazing, as always. The first ever World Cup qualifying campaign, so nice to be part of that first group, I suppose. Difficult at times as well, coming up against such quality opposition, but then again it was always going to be the case. But no, I think that we've progressed from the last Euros to the World Cup qualifying campaign. There are signs of progress, even though some results don't really show that progress, but little 1%ers, 2%ers where we're starting to keep the ball more, we're starting to make more chances, and more shots on target, more goals, less conceded, stuff like that. So we are improving slowly, even though the initial signs aren't there, but we are feeling now that we are competing against teams for longer periods in games, as opposed to what was happening in the first ever qualifying campaign. So internationally, if we can keep that up and then keep progressing with each tournament that goes by, even better. The Nations League is going to help us tremendously as well, because we're playing against teams around our calibre, and so we'll be hoping to get better results.
I guess playing against Belgium was quite the experience. How would you compare that one to maybe playing Germany and other teams?
The Belgians, I think, have been our toughest opponents. I've played against Germany, played against Portugal, played against Poland, Croatia, but the Belgians were literally ruthless. I think the direct style of play that they have, literally, if you look at their team sheet, the number of stars would probably add up their team and look over the few £100 million mark. But yeah, their direct style of play really hurt us. But like I said, it's an amazing experience playing in front of their full capacity stadium. It was great. And again, the pain of the result was there, yes, but a life-changing experience, really, and one that you remember and you'll remember forever.
I see. I guess it was a part of a pinch yourself moment when you're 1 minute you're watching the Lewandowskis, the Götzes, the Nani, the Hazards on TV, and then next thing you know, you're sharing a pitch with them. I remember from the Belgium game, because we were in the tunnel with the mascots ready to go out, and I grabbed the mascot's hand on my left and I looked to my right, and I was standing beside Vincent Kompany, and he was literally double my size in width and in height, and I was like, my gosh, how are we going to play against these guys? And when we turned up to the pitch, we thought, well, maybe they might rest a few players because they've got the game against Greece in a couple of days' time, and they might rotate their squad. Saw the team sheet, and they included Lukaku, Hazard, De Bruyne, Kompany, Alderweireld, Vertonghen, etc., etc., etc. So no, it's kind of amazing for us to share these memories eventually when we're older and with younger generations, and to say that we've played against these players, and when I have kids eventually to say that, look, this is the guy I was marking, I've got pictures from the game and everything else. So it's really cool. I guess one of the talking points is that very early goal against Belgium. I think it's still up to debate whether it was you or Ryan Casiaro at fault. What is your say on it?
It was definitely my fault. I think it was a poor pass from me, maybe early nerves, but I've kind of keep getting abuse from everyone in school with regards to that goal, and people just randomly shouting down corridors, Benteke and stuff like that. So I'm kind of used to it now. So, but yeah, no, it's an unwanted world record for me, but it's part of the learning process, really. It's a mistake that I hopefully will never make again, touch wood, and it's a shame that it happened on the biggest stage for me, against the biggest team, against the best players. If I was to do that in the Gib Prem, I probably would have got away with it.
Yes.
But that's the difference between the international stage against the best players in the world and local football. So it's a learning curve. You make mistakes, you learn from them, hopefully it doesn't happen again.
You're saying you learn from your mistakes. How have you seen this campaign improve you as a player?
I feel that I'm fitter than before. I feel that we are having greater possession now than before. I've always kind of a player that doesn't mind a tackle. I try to put myself about as much as possible, but as in I've had many more minutes this campaign than I had in the Euros, so experience-wise it's helping me a lot. More minutes on the pitch, more time getting used to that kind of level of play.
So in the Nations League is in September. How are you looking forward to getting that underway? Yeah,
first of all, it'd be nice to play matches at home. I think that would be a massive help for us, getting us over the line. For example, games like Cyprus where we were 1-1 the last 5 minutes before they scored the winner. I think that wouldn't have happened if we were playing in the Victoria Stadium, for example, in front of our own fans. So, like I said, the fans, the home game, the atmosphere will help us also. Playing against teams of that level, I suppose, of our level, from our same pot, I think will help us massively.
Right now, under 21, they won their game when you were just before you were playing against Greece.
Mm-hmm.
How good is that? The youngsters are getting a spot. Do you feel the youngsters, those under 21, should have been in recent squads?
I think it's great for them to be playing under 21 level, and the step up will be significant. The more minutes they can get at under 21 level, the better. I would say. So yeah, it's nice if they could be included in squads, but then again, to be included in a squad and not be playing, right, you live the experience, yeah, it's nice, but is it more valuable maybe to go away with the under-20s, 21s, play the 90 minutes, or sit on the bench for the senior international side at the moment? I think there is value in both, but the more games these guys get at under 21 levels, the better. They've got their first 3 points in their first ever under 21 campaign. That's really, really, really good for the country. So hopefully we can kind of bleed these guys into the senior squad eventually. And it's really, really important for these guys, especially to be playing at local level as well, not to be kind of content with just sitting on the bench and getting themselves a nice check at the end of each month. They need to be playing, and that's important as well with club football too.
Yeah, seeing as you're a teacher, do you maybe give some advice to those younger kids where, look, don't be like the others, play, get your minutes, and you can be like me, playing against, like you said, the Vincent Kompanies, the De Bruynes, the Hazards, etc.
Yeah, I don't kind of relate themselves to me, but personally, maybe to other better players within the squad. But they kind of look up to me with regards to football and everything else. And whatever advice I can give them, I say to them, look, the more minutes you get, the more playing time you get, the better. If you can maybe go away to Spain and play in local leagues in Spain at youth level, go there because it's more competitive, it's better. I've got a few guys in my year 8 class that play for Gadi at the moment, and they go away every weekend, and that is kind of living that football experience, which you possibly don't get now. I know they're trying to re-establish the youth setup here, but the advice I could give to young players is really, apart from getting as many minutes as you can, listening to the advice of coaches, right? Don't think you're above them and know more than them, because you don't, and train as hard as you can, and train for yourself and work as hard as you can, and aim for that goal, which is the senior side in 10, 15 years time, based on however old you are. And that's the advice I give to a lot of the kids that I teach in school.
Yeah, do you see a life outside of football? Maybe not playing, but would you take up a coaching role if it came about?
I'm currently doing my level 2, so I think I might. I don't know whether it would be junior or senior coaching, but I could dip into coaching eventually. But it's not something I'm really thinking of at the moment. I'm kind of thinking of, I'll do my level 2, wait, and then maybe go on to do my UEFA B, but I don't. After that, maybe give it a few years out of football when I finish eventually, and then maybe come back.
You're listening to the Gibraltar Footie Show with Adam Roberts and Steve Brown.
Well, an excellent interview there with Jamie Bosio. You must have enjoyed talking to him, because he sounds a really articulate and intelligent young man.
Yeah, he's a great person to speak to, and we were talking for ages. I think if we were to put off everything we were talking about, I think the podcast would have been about an hour. Yeah,
but he certainly knows what he wants, and the fact that he may once I know he's doing his level 2 or doing one of his coaching badges as we speak. And
yeah, he's looking
hopefully a career after football.
Coaching. Yeah, he's doing his coaching at the moment. He was doing last season. He was working with the Gib United youngsters, and I think coaching is something that would interest him once he gives up playing.
Yeah, and I like his honesty after giving the ball away against Belgium. Because you were asking him, you were saying, was it your fault or someone else's? But I've looked back at that. It was certainly Jamie's fault. I don't know who we were passing to. The Invisible Man, I think.
Yeah, I was always speaking to him about it, as I always used to take the mickey out of him and see what he said. So as soon as we sat down and had a coffee, that was one of the first things I wanted to ask him.
Yeah, but fantastic lad, and thank you very much indeed for joining us on the Gib Footie Show. Well, we've got quite a few things to cover so far, but I just wanted to catch up on a story that's been making the headlines over the last day. The fact that St. Joseph's have signed a former Benfica and Barcelona player. Yeah,
and I think it was Ernesto Cornejo or something. He's
I'm glad you said that.
I looked at his yeah, I was struggling a bit to say that. And I was looking at he's got a good CV, but the many players that have come to Gibraltar that have good CVs and haven't been able to cut it. So yeah. It should be fun to see how he plays. He's walked straight into the squad, which is quite ridiculous, really, when you think he signed this morning and he's walked straight into the squad.
Well, the thing is, that kind of thing might not go down with the rest of the squad.
No, you would have thought it wouldn't, but
because you got to earn your stripes, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly, but he must have been in a position that Raul felt he was very low or didn't have anyone in. So hopefully he does well today.
Yeah, and looking at what I was going to say, St Joseph's, you would expect them to be top 3, top 4 this season. Would you expect?
Yeah, I think everyone in Gibraltar would have expected them after how they play football over the last few seasons, and looking how they walked into the Europa League last season. I think they would want the same again, kind of that European
kind of
adventure
experience.
Yeah, they'd want to do it again, but so far they don't look like a team that's going to get near that position this season.
But I suppose if you're bringing players in, such as this guy who's had the experience of playing a decent level of football, the intent is there that you want to strive towards top 3 places again and get yourself in Europe, because he's not going to be coming for pennies.
No, at all. But I think Raul, I think the guy they brought in today, he comes from Chiclana, which is more or less the area which Raul knows well. So
it's like Cadiz area, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm sure Raul knew exactly who he was getting before he put pen to paper.
Yeah. Well, I managed to catch up with Yarrow Boards this afternoon. I've got the podcast on the Twitter page, on the Gib Footie page, if people want to check that out. Please give us a follow on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube now. We've got a YouTube channel up and running. Did you know that?
Yeah, it looks good, man. And make sure everyone, whoever has a look at everyone, like the video and share it. Get us going worldwide.
We've got to get the word out. That's that. But it all takes time, doesn't it? But it's great that these people are coming on the show and showing an interest in what we're doing, Adam.
Yeah, of course, it's good to get noticed by everyone. Once a few people know about us, they'll tell their friends, who tell their friends, and then next thing you know, we're going to be bringing in a massive audience who's going to be listening to every podcast. And
then, yesterday I managed to catch up with, or was it yesterday or Monday evening, I managed to catch up with Adam Priestley, which was a fantastic thing to do. He's now playing with Farsley Celtic and scored an absolute worldie last night against Aston United.
Yeah, he put it on Instagram today. He said, I don't score many or something like that. But when I saw it, I was like, that was definitely a strike worthy of being on Instagram. It was quality.
Yeah, he came off the bench and managed to get I know they were 3-1 down at the time when he came off the bench, and he managed to be a part of the side who finished 3-3. But his team are doing very well in the Northern League, the Evo Stick, which is a good standard of football. And I suppose if he keeps his form up, then Jeff Woods he's not going to be able to ignore him, is he?
Yeah, but I spoke to Jeff many a time about this, and I don't think it was actually his form that was keeping him out of the squad. I think it was his fitness. He was picking up some injuries, some quite long-term injuries, and I think that was one of the main factors behind him not being in the squad over the last few games. Yeah,
because he's a school teacher. I know he's a sports teacher in Leeds, and he's back with Farsley now, and getting regular football, it can only help his cause going into 2018.
Yeah, I know he'll be hoping to get on that list for the Nations League, as it's a great opportunity for us to pick up some points. And hopefully with this Nations League we can be there as Gib Footie. That'd be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, that'd be good. I can't wait for international football to be played on the Rock. And of course, it's coming back in March, as we were talking about last week with the under-21s, I believe. A couple of games lined up against, is it Serbia and Russia? Yeah, Serbia and Russia. They're coming over to the Rock, and like people will hear with my interview with Terrence, the home crowds play a massive part in every game, and I'm sure we'll continue to do well when we play here. Yeah, well, just moving on to talking about Terrence, I had the pleasure of listening to that prior when I was doing the editing for tonight's show, and it sounds like you had a really good chat with him, and you were telling me off air that you were sat talking to him for about 2 hours. Yeah, whenever we start talking, we can never shut up. Really, I think we were speaking 2 hours prior to the interview, and we're speaking an hour afterwards. He just has so much to say, and once we start talking, it just rolls on. And he's like I said, he's a very knowledgeable guy who's helped me a lot while I've been covering football in the Rock. Yeah, he sounds a very articulate chap, and a man who certainly knows his stuff, and he's got his coaching badges as well to show for it. Yeah, he stepped down from the under-19s and started to have a go at at domestic level. He was the assistant coach at Monscalpe, but after a year he kind of terminated his contract with the club, and he was telling me that now he wants to come back to international.
Yeah, well, here's a great interview with Adam Roberts chatting to Terrence Jolley.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Terrence, the Premier is underway. I guess what have you made of it so far?
Well, the weeks that have just gone past, I've gone down to see every game so far, even if it's just been the first half, and it's a very interesting league this year. A lot of new players coming in. Still, I think we need a bit more local input, but the games are going a lot different than what everyone expected. There's been some very good results from all teams, from Lions, for instance. Everyone wasn't rating them last season, but this season they've come in with a bang. Europa, of course, losing their first 2 games. I think the season this year is going to be very hot, and even most of the season this year round.
You were the assistant of Monscalpe last season. How did you find your first year in domestic football?
As you all know, I was the GFA under-19 head coach, and I loved working for the GFA. I was offered a job with inside Monscalpe Football Club, as they'd just been given promotion, and I thought, why not? I'm going to give it a go. It was very interesting. Very much on my half, it was too much of a commitment that you had to train 5 days a week, plus the game. But I've learned a lot from the coaches that we've had inside of Monscalpe. And the new coaches coming in, very decent coaches that we brought from Portugal, that the club actually brought in. Then we brought an Italian. I did actually help them when they sacked William Andrades, our head coach. I took over for 3 games, and it was a baptism of fire, because I think it was Europa, Lincoln and St. Joseph, if I'm not mistaken, in the cup. It was a commitment that I've realised I cannot carry on with. So over speaking with the investors, I decided to leave football, and I have now had a rest from local football and just going back to watching it at the moment.
Have you been keeping up with Monscalpe this season? How do you think they'll fare?
I think they've brought in some very good players. A lot of the players were there from last year. It's a shame that none of the locals from last year stayed, but through work commitment and other problems behind the scenes, they've all left. They've signed some very good local players, Graham, Torrija, Nathan, and we all know Mr. Bardo. I wish them the best of luck for this season.
Like you said, you were the under-19 coach. How did you find your time working with the national team?
Working with the national, as you all know, I've worked under Alan Buller, I've worked with the under-19s, I've helped David Oscello with the under-17s as well, Stephen Head with his group of lads as well. It was a pleasure working for the Gibraltar Football Association. I'd love to work again with them, and I think that's in everyone's acknowledgement that I hopefully will go back next year, at the end of this year. I'm just waiting on a few things. If they go my way, it's easier for me to cope with working with the GFA, because it's not as committed as working with at club level. So hopefully I will go back in the near future and work under the GFA again.
Your son Ethan Jolley just played in the under-21 game which saw them beat Macedonia. You were there live to watch the game. How did you feel the team played? The
team played a good solid setup from the back to the middle. The players have gone through different managers over the last 2 seasons, so they've worked with different coaches in their teams and in the national squad. But in that game, personally, I think the defenders, the keeper and the holding midfield players played a perfect game. They knew what they wanted to do. They just held. When we got when we just got the ball, you could see what they were aiming to do was to hold it as much as possible, play football and attack as quick as we could. On one of the attacks, we got the foul, which was just past the halfway line, and we were lucky to take our opportunity and score a goal.
You must have been quite pleased with the result, not just because you're the father of Ethan who was playing, but because you've managed some of the players there for a good number of years.
If it wouldn't have been for the security, I would have run on the pitch. But I suppose being an ex-under-19 coach, I suppose I'm not allowed to do that. Yeah, of course, I was over the moon. Just not only for my son, but for the whole of the team. All the players that weren't there, all the technical team that have been there from day one, I was literally over the moon. My wife had to say sit down and shut up for 5 minutes because I just couldn't control myself.
How do you feel youth football has developed over the last few years?
In Gibraltar, I think we need to push it a little bit more with the youth. Going from under 15, 16, 17, we need to help them a lot more. If we've got players that are good enough, we need to push them to get out of Gib, because that's the only way we'll improve our national side, that we need to get these football players out of Gib. I mean, yes, we train 4 or 5 days a week, but it's not at the same level as academy players do in the UK or any other country for that matter. And I think that would help whoever the national manager is, Jeff Wood, if he's there next year. I think that would improve his selection of players as well.
Do you feel there's some players in the under-21 squad who are good enough to be in the seniors right now?
Yes, I do. As we all know, and I've always said it, there's more than enough players that they could be there, sat on the bench. Ethan Jolley, Graham Torrija, the young keepers, Bradley, who's the number one keeper at the moment for the under-21s, Dale Coling as well, who I rate very highly. Not just them players, there's more. Leon Clinton's pushing. TJ the Bar, who's still with the under-19s, he could be up there as well in the near future. And these are the players for me which could be used as bench players for the national side. I know that some players will retire in the next couple of months from the GFA national squad because of their age, commitments, maybe because they've now got kids in life and everything changes. But I think, yes, there's more than 2 or 3 players that could make it up to the national side.
Moving to the national side, how do you feel the World Cup qualifying campaign went?
The campaign for me has been a bit of a letdown. I didn't want to lose by the results we've been losing, but I know what it's like. Having worked under Alan Buller and the commitment that the technical staff have been doing is amazing on Jeff Wood's side and on Alan Buller's side. But the problem there is the commitment we get from the players. We don't have the players enough. It's all right saying we're going away 2 days before the game, but for me personally, we need the players a little bit earlier. I still think that we need to have the players once a week through the whole of the season. Say once a Wednesday is national side only training day, and from all age groups they train on a Wednesday. I still feel that we should be doing that, but that's my opinion only, and I can understand clubs as well, they pay their players, so the club comes first. It's a very difficult pinch where to go. The players want to do their best, and I think they all play with as I say, the 3 C's. All of them do, and I think it will take time. We've shown we can do it at under-19 level. We've got the win now at the under-21 level, so hopefully sooner or later we'll get a win with the seniors as well.
There's been a lot of talk about Jeff Wood's contract being reviewed. Do you feel if his contract isn't renewed, do you feel the next manager should be out of foreign maybe? Or do you feel there's enough quality in local coaching for someone to be take over from him?
If the GFA decide at the end of the day when his contract ends that they don't want to renew it, that personally to me is to do with the GFA. I mean, I must say that I've worked with Jeff and with Alan, like you keep on saying. They are both very good coaches. But personally, if a new one does come in, I think we need to bring a coach from outside. I mean, one name which comes to me is the ex-Mons Calpe coach, William Andrades, who came from Portugal, played for Benfica. I think he'd do a brilliant job, but it's not my choice, or my opinion, I should say. At the end of the day, the GFA make the decision, and I just hope that if we do bring a new coach in, that he works with local in the technical side, same as Jeff has done, and the same as Alan Buller. Your number 2 is a local, your goalkeeping coach is a local, and inside is all local, to try and keep that close knit family.
Finally, the GFA announced a few weeks ago that we will be playing 2 under-21 games in the stadium. How important would you be is the factor of the playing in a home ground? Well,
I think we'll all remember when I was the head coach with the under-19s. We had hungry under-19s out here, and we drew that game 2-2, and it was as if you had a 13th man on the pitch. The way local people are, they support their national side 100%, and this is what I think is needed in Gibraltar. We need to play in Gibraltar, no matter what. It has to happen. That will give the players the boost. When you're playing in front of 1,000 fans, it's unbelievable. The adrenaline that are in players, they just want to run and keep on running. And I think it's like we always say, they are the 13th man.
Okay, thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you, and all the best.
You're listening to the Gibraltar Footie Show with Adam Roberts and Steve Brown.
Well, Adam, another fantastic interview and very informative and certainly a switched-on cookie.
Yeah, he's a great person to speak to, and I'm sure if we could put all 4 hours of info
we could have done
podcast,
Terrence on his own.
Yeah, exactly. He could do a podcast on his own. He has so much to say.
Yeah, but it was interesting to listen to what Terrence had to say. It stopped for a second there. It was interesting to listen to what Terrence had to say about the fact that he believes that the national team or players on the Rock need to get off the Rock and experience other leagues and an higher standard of football as well at the same time in order to progress and move forward as a nation.
Yeah, of course. He's coached people internationally, like younger players who've played in Spain, and you can see that the players that have come from Spain and come here are much better than what we have on show. You look at players like I said earlier, Anthony Hernandez. He was playing in Cádiz. He's come here, and you can see that he has that technique that you can't really teach on the Rock. And if you want to learn as a footballer and get better, moving abroad is definitely the option to go.
And it was interesting to just listen to the fact that he has worked with Jeff, he has worked with Alan as well, and he holds both of them guys in high esteem.
Yeah, he was always talking. He couldn't speak highly enough of both managers. And
just moving forward now, before we wrap it up for another week here on the Gib Footie Show, just looking at the games, looking at the fixtures ahead, as we know tonight. Yeah, just looking at the games ahead this week. Let's start with the second division, as we always do. What's captured your attention or captured your eye for this week in the second division?
I think it all starts on Sunday, really. Olympic Sunday's games look like it could be a massive impact on the second division table. You're looking at Olympic versus Magpies. Both teams are not doing very well. I think both of them teams need a win if they want to challenge, maybe a late challenge, but somehow get into the top three.
And I think with that one, just interrupting you there, I think with the Magpies, I believe that David Wilson won't be present for that game. He's missing 2 games because he's away on holiday with his family. So it'd be the assistants who are picking that game up against Olympic. But that could be a tasty one. Could go either way. One.
It'll be like you said, exactly that. It can go either way, and I think with both teams how they're playing right now, if there is a winner, it'll be really tight.
And of course, Cannons versus Angels. That's going to be a pretty good affair, isn't it?
Yeah, first versus second. You could probably say it'll be more of a Spanish affair than a local. But I know Angels right now are playing some great football. But Cannons, if they stick to their game plan like they did against Boca, we could be looking at another possible upset.
Yeah, and then next Wednesday, before we do the number 4 of the podcast, FC Hound Dogs versus Europa Point. How do you see that one going?
I think Europa Point are a very strong team. I think I'll be very surprised if Hound Dogs manage to get something out of that game.
Yeah, and then looking at the Premiership, just to have a little recap and just see what's going on there. As we said before, we touched upon it before, Alan Buller not having had the best of starts. He'll be looking to hopefully bring some reinforcements in because he can't buy a goal, never mind a win. And up against Lincoln, I would expect to see at least 3, possibly 4 goals there for Lincoln, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I feel quite bad for Buller right now. And when you've got poor runs, you want to be playing teams on more or less your level to try and get some confidence. But when you look at tomorrow and you see Lincoln, I think it's going to be a very tough game, and I think we can only see that going one way.
Yeah, and then I look at Europa and look at Glasses, and if I would have been looking at that fixture last season, I'd have straight away just gone Europa. But with Glasses, you just never know, do you?
Yeah, exactly. They've been quite inconsistent
They could easily get a draw out of that game.
Yeah, depending how they go, but I think with Europa, it's a must-win. I think if they want to get anywhere close to Lincoln, they've got to start picking up points now. So even if it's a draw, I think questions will be raised of the manager.
Yeah, because he would have spent some brass during the summer, and he's expected to get results. So I know we're only a few games in, but after round one, going into round two, if he's not changed his ways or things haven't gone the way that the board of directors had expected, he might be getting his marching orders. Yeah,
I think he'll be trying to find oh crap! I thought my phone was on silent. Like I said, I think if he doesn't start picking up points soon, I think he's gonna be him and his coaching team are gonna be heading back to Spain, try and find a team there.
Yeah. Well, Manchester 62 versus Mons Calpe. I know that you are looking at your predictions, and you've got Calpe down for a win there.
Yeah, I think Mons Calpe are a very strong side. The game, I think, against Phoenix on the opening day was just a minor bump in the team. They've got a very good squad right now, and I think they'll breeze past Manchester.
And then finally, we've got the Gib United versus Lions. That is going to be a very tasty affair.
That's probably one of the biggest games on the match day. Both teams,
because both sides are doing really well.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to want to catch up with Lincoln as well. So, looking how Lions last time out, they're missing their striker, Juanma Yaves. He's out through suspension, and I don't think Lions really have a second choice striker. So, I think with Gibraltar United, if they can keep a fully fit squad in the next few days, I think they should walk away with all 3 points. Yeah.
Well, I know that you were at the training camp last night. You were at training for Gib United. How are the lads feeling?
Yeah, there's a good buzz around the team. I think they all know what's at stake on Saturday, and every player now has in their head it's 3 points or nothing.
Brilliant. Well, that's another week wrapped up on the Rock with the Gib Footie Show. Always a pleasure. Week 3, and hopefully same time next week.
Yeah, hopefully we'll carry on going from here and get stronger, and we're looking to see who's going to come on next week.
Fantastic. Well, if you want to get in touch with us, don't forget you can get in touch via Twitter, which is Gib Footie. We're also on the Facebook. We're on also on the YouTube, audio boom files as well at the Gibraltar Footie Show. And if you want to get in touch with us, then it's the gibfootie@gmail.com. See you next week. See you next week, mate.
See you, mate.
Embracing the football scene on the Rock of Gibraltar with Adam Roberts and Steve Brown.